Hi everyone, I'm Neil Snape. I'm a photographer and I'm here to share some of my views on making images, how I process them, the importance of a good quality monitor for your display, a little bit on color management, and we're going to process in real time a few images. So let's get started. Now, what we're going to cover today will be light observation, reacting, modifying light. I'm going to show you a simple setup in a little while, one that works and can be used for portraiture, fine arts, whatever you choose to use it for. A little bit about when we're looking at images, what makes for a strong image and why. We're going to go through some real-time examples of selected images. I put together a little folder of images that I think will keep you happy, and see how I modify them, how to make them stronger in Lightroom. And very simple techniques, but effective. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of having a good monitor. So since we're talking about editing images, your portal into the image itself, the image world, is your monitor. So it's a really important topic, and BenQ do a great job at making monitors that make it easy to fully rely on your monitor. Color management. When you have a good monitor, you have to maintain the color management on it, and there are some different ways of doing it, and we'll go through just a few of them. Develop settings, that comes back to Lightroom. I also use Capture One, but today's webinar we're going to concentrate just on Lightroom. Crafting and shaping on raw images and conversions to black and whites. And at the end of the webinar, if you have any questions, just send me an email. Okay, let's take a look. So what I do now is I'm teaching master's fashion in Paris College of Art. It's an American university in Paris. I also teach some lighting classes with the school. On my own, I teach private lessons. I host workshops in Paris and in Europe. I do online training remotely. I still shoot beauty pictures, portraits for my own work, and fine art expo pictures. I do a little bit of commercial video and some fashion films. And I also still do a limited amount of consulting for IT manufacturers, color devices, printers, and measurement tools for making profiles, etc. So I'm going to come out of here, and I'm going to show you just a very brief slideshow on what I do. These are beauty pictures that have been done for advertising as well as editorial, and some fine art pictures that are included. I've always concentrated on having some type of connection with the eyes. There's something interesting in light, maybe light and shadow. Most of what I do, I try to get the light right before it goes to post-prod. So these pictures are not, most of them are not highly retouched. They're actually very similar if you were to see the raw image compared to a finished image. Beauty pictures are typically about color. We don't do very many in black and white. And another reason why you need to have a reliable monitor, so that what you're seeing is actually the real information in the image is being shown to you on your monitor. I do a lot of black and whites now. I think that black and white, if you don't have any color information that's important, black and white gives you the opportunity to see in an image in form, light and form and shadow. Sometimes it's stronger than color. Color adds reality, black and white adds mystery. That's the advantage of shooting images in RAW. At any time you can review the image and convert it as you like and with different settings. Well, I hope you like those slides. Now we're going to get back to So you can find me on Instagram, Neil Snape Shots, my website, neilsnape.com. If you sign up to my newsletter, so I sometimes post blogs about tutorials, also about upcoming workshops. You can get 5 free Lightroom presets for making beauty images. You might like those. Facebook, I have a couple of different accounts, mostly Neil Snape Photography, and fan page, Neil Snape Photo. Email, easy enough, neil@neilsnape.com. Or if you're ever in Paris, you can always find me in my studio. So I just wanted to present a special offer that BenQ was really nice to offer. For any attendees of this webinar, you are going to get a great discount on an already very well-priced display monitor for photo editing and video. So the code is included here. I'll show this again at the end of the webinar in case you missed it. For anybody that came in late, and you'll find the monitors on their site, and it's valid for a few days. I just wanted to share with you my setup of what monitors I'm running. This is an iMac 27-inch 5K monitor, and beside it in the picture is a SW320, which is a 4K 32-inch monitor. Very wide gamut monitor, and very well done. It's excellent for doing both photography and video, especially video. So if you want a monitor for viewing 4K images, I would say that this would be the preferred choice, just because the menus, it gives a little bit more space, and the text size is more reasonable compared to the image. So that's my photography setup. And sometimes for photography, I use SW2700, because for images, I think it's a great monitor for doing that. For video, however, I really do recommend, if you're doing any 4K video, that you have a 4K monitor. So this is, again, the video setup running DaVinci Resolve. So what are the reasons why you need a good monitor for editing images? Basically, because when you're looking at your images, you have to have full confidence that the screen, what you're editing, is what really is going on in the image. So if you have a wide range of colors in the image, you need them to be shown correctly without banding or contouring, without artifacts, and have smooth gradients to be able to see in the highlights and the shadows exactly what's going on in the image. So that comes from a good quality monitor, and color management is the part that allows that you maintain those colors, and you can keep that confidence in using your monitor. So this is an example of a picture. That was the picture on the left is the raw image as it was shot, and the picture on the right is an edited image. Most of the work, almost all the color graduates, so the contrast, the color, the densities, the amount of saturation, everything was done directly on a raw image in Lightroom. The picture on the left is the raw image, and after it's edited is on the right. The only thing that Photoshop really was quicker at doing is, of course, moving any temporary things like blemishes and the little reflector that I use to make an extra capsulate in the eyes. So those things are better off done in Photoshop. But the rest of the image, all of the color controls, density, contrast, clarity, sharpness, grain, local area adjustments, dodge and burn, I do that all in Lightroom. Now, again, another image. So on the right, this time, is the raw image, and on the left is an actual finished image, but that's still on a raw image. So by showing you this, it gives you an example of how important it is to have color management and a monitor that is fully capable of showing you the exact colors. The back of the screen on your camera will never give you true colors. So you need to have a portal into your imagery that shows you exactly colors as they are. With the advantage of using a BenQ monitor is that they have a built-in application. Well, it's an included application, and it uses you use a calibration device to calibrate your monitor, and that's done with communication directly to the monitor. So it's actually lodged inside of the monitor in a high bit depth, which is not possible with, say, an iMac, which is not running at the same bit depth. So not only do you get pure and better graduations of tone, but you also have a lot more error correction that's going on inside of the monitor to correct for all the colors. That's why you can really put a lot of confidence into your color management system when you use a BenQ monitor, and it's very easily done. It's semi-automated, and it's really reliable, and you don't have to think too much about it. Set your controls, and it's all done for you, and it gives you confidence in what you're working on, whether or not it be video or photography. So you can see the image on the right. Of course, through a webinar, you're not going to be able to see exact colors that you would see on a monitor. But since this was shot with daylight, it's actually going through double pane windows and picks up a lot of green. So I can easily correct for that, judging by what's on the monitor and picking a point that should be gray, and it sets the white balance accordingly. But if you had a monitor that has color cast or doesn't show you the right information into the shadows, it makes it a lot more difficult to come up with a reasonable solution. So for any serious amateur photographer or any professionals, you really need to have a good quality monitor, and you need to maintain your color management on that monitor by doing profiles that are lodged, etc. So let's take a look at something completely different. So we talked about color management, but I'm also going to show you very easy techniques of making timeless portrait or fine art pictures. So the way that I do that in my studio is whenever I can, I use daylight, and it's coming through a window. On the diagram that's on the left, there are two white panes, which could be silks or panels, but they could also be windows coming through. And you can see on the picture on the right, one is the one closest to the auto poles, the big poles that are sticking up. Those are for blocking the light onto the background. So you can see on the picture there that you have a graduate of light from dark, and it fades out to a white behind that panel. And then when you get into the white area, that's actually where the subject, I'll show you in the next picture, is where the subject's shadow is against the lighter area, and the subject's highlight is actually in the darker area where the graduation is. So that's what we call dark to light, light to dark. It's a really easy technique to use, and I highly recommend it. Even if you use flash, you can still do the same thing with a very large source, and you just interrupt the flow, so you have a graduate of light on the background, and yet the light on the subject then will be the opposite. And this is the way the painters used to paint, and the Dutch painters. So I can show you some results. The one on the left is a very simple picture, and it's done exactly that way. So you can see a little bit of the graduate. It could have been better if I would have moved her over a little bit, so she would have been exactly in the center, but I didn't. This is the example that I wanted to share with you. And on the other hand, you can see the picture that's on the right, very natural. There's no retouching. That's right out of RAW, but modified in Lightroom. So you have a graduate, a little bit less of a graduate. It depends on the day, how fast that graduate goes across, but you have your light side on a little bit darker, and then dark side should be a little bit lighter. So that's a fabulous way to do really nice lighting without working as hard. I see often people, they struggle with getting like a classic type of lighting, and they make it hard for themselves, and I just wanted to share that with you. That's the easiest way to do it, and it makes a big difference to your photography, makes it easier. If you look at these two pictures, what has my signature, so I tried to get a little bit in the eyes, light in the eyes. That's slightly modified in Lightroom, and I'll show you how I do that in just a little bit. So that picture is completely natural. There's nothing really, maybe I should go back one. Yes. So if you want to fill in the face for light, I went back to the other slide. If you can see the panel that's right beside the camera, it's actually reflecting light in as a fill. So some people would put the fill on the right-hand side of the subject, and yet that is actually less than ideal, because you're going to have a second direction of light. And the really nice thing is when you can have the reflector putting in light almost the same direction as the source light. And with that, then you still maintain the shadows that are on the face, and yet you still fill. So part of the light, I'll go back to the slide, on her face, so the part that's filling here is actually that I put a board close to the window, but I don't kill the shadows that are on the side, because those shadows are what create volume, and that's what's important in photography. And that's all there is for this one. So I'm going to exit out. And I'm going to go to Lightroom. That's that beautiful card that I put in there. So let's take a look at any one image, and I can show you. I'm going to pick which one I'm going to pick today. So this one I've already worked on once, so I can actually even delete it. Oh, okay. Smart collections you can't delete. So I'm going to take, this is the original. So we're going to go to the original. We're actually going to do this image right now in real time. So I want to click on this one to reframe. So this is the original, as you can see. I'm just going to reset it, and I'm going to press R. One of the fast ways to flip the orientation of the framing is press X. And then I'm going to go into a view like we saw there. And I'm going to go down a little bit to there and say, okay, interesting. So I can click off or just press R again. And it's a lot flatter than if I go back to this image, which is already been treated. So we want it to look a little bit like that. So what I'm going to start with is, first off, and most important thing is to start play with color balances. If we go too yellow, the skin's going to be a little bit off, and we're not going to get the rich blues out of that. We can modify the colors later, locally, but we want to find a nice white balance. And I'm going to take it back to 0, and I'm going to say, that looks kind of interesting when it's a little bit cooler. Okay, fine. Tint. Whenever I'm working on images in Lightroom, I just go down in the order of the panels. They're there. There's a logic reason why they're there. So I just follow them through. Now the tint, I don't want it too green in the skin tone, so I'm gonna, actually I don't mind if it's a little bit on the magenta side, that's fine. Exposure. I want to see what it looks like lighter, darker. And I think it's not bad there, but I think what's going to really help is contrast. So we're going to keep up the contrast, put that up a little bit, and up a little bit in lightness. Good. Highlights. You'll notice that when I take the sliders, if you can see that on the webinar, I actually just go a little bit crazy. I'll push them over to the left really far, push them over to the right to see what's happening, what areas are being affected. Now, if it doesn't really add anything to the image, then there's no reason to make the skin tones lighter unless you wanted a pure white. So you could try. Each image is different. Going back into the shadows, and I like the shadows when they're a little bit darker, actually. Whites bring it alive. Blacks. Don't think you want to go too far in the blacks, because you can see at the top it's already being pushed over that way a lot. Vibrancy. color image like this, you can see if you actually add color, you might have too much color. One of the things about BenQ monitors that's really fabulous, I don't know how many other monitors have that, they have a puck that you can click on and you can set it to your main calibration. So in this case, it's my calibration for the maximum of color of the monitor that it's capable of producing. And then you have other buttons that you can user change. And one of the buttons is designated as a black and white button, which is really useful if you want to see a whole contact sheet full of black and whites. And one of the other ones that's really useful is, of course, sRGB or Rec 709, which for video videographers, Rec 709 is the equivalent of sRGB. With the click of a button, you can see what it will look like on the web. Because this image on my screen is way too much, it's too colorful to be reproduced on sRGB. So I can press a button and look at it and find out exactly what it's going to look like on the web. So you already know in advance that you won't be able to have these colors. It's not possible. Click on the button, come back to the high resolution and color depth that's at its maximum. So it's a really fantastic feature. So anyways, I've gone down through these settings as I think it should be. Clarity is something I avoid because it adds mid-tone contrast, but it actually will then push down the blacks into a desaturated black. So I'm not going to add much here, but I'm going to add it later locally. Now, tone curve, I usually hold off for these ones. You can also press curves, as you know, here. I hold off on those until I've actually set my color controls. So color controls. What I do is I want to see where are those reds living, so I can turn them up or down, and I think that's pretty interesting. When it's a little bit lighter, I can turn up the saturation, and I can actually change the hue angle of those colors. Now I like them a little bit warmer, so that's what I'm going to do. Yellows. Well, yellows aren't very interesting in this picture, and there's not much yellow, so I'm just going to leave them where they are. And I'm actually going to desaturate yellow so the skin tone does not become too colored. That one's fine. Green, there's not much green, but there should be a lot of aqua. Yeah, so aqua, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, and I'm going to turn up saturation. Blues, lots and lots of blues. We don't want it too light, we don't want it too dark. And I think the hue angle is probably good, but I can play with it to see if it's not more interesting. I haven't seen it like that before. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. And we're good. Now, split toning. Sometimes you add a little bit of split toning if you want to see in the shadows. What if we added a little bit of this? But split toning, as long as saturation is set to 0, you don't see. So you have to turn up saturation first. So then the saturation is way too much. So if you just want to add a little bit, and I thought that was interesting when we did to there, that's about it. So what are we going to do to this image other than that? Sometimes I press Command N, which means snapshot. That way I can easily go back to where I was. I'm going to go to the brush tool, and I'm going to actually add just clarity. That's in the effect, and it'll remember what you last used it. Here I'm going to go up actually a lot in the clarity for here to make it really a lot livelier. I don't want to do that in skin tones because it's going to make it a little bit crunchy, and I don't do a lot of retouching because I like when images are pristine. The less retouching, the better. Right. That's all we have to do. Now, what else can we do? We're going to go up with exposure. I'm going to turn up the exposure a little bit and highlights. So this, I'm going to stroke over the important area. And here, I want to make the skin tones like really bright up here. And I'm going to add a new, do the same, and I'm going to take it down to the bottom. There might be whites actually, rather than the highlights. Great. And I don't know if we need to do any in there. Yeah, I brought it up a little bit. Good. What else can we do to this image? I think we're just about done, except I'm going to do one with highlights, a little bit more with whites that turn up in clarity even a lot. And I'm going to make the eyelashes really come alive. That's it. So I think it works this way. If I press backspace key, it's before and after. That's it. That's all we have to do. Okay. 34. Okay, I'm going to take one more, and I'm going to go give you another example. How would we rework? Go to this one, and I'm going to show you a fine art one that's in black and white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a virtual copy of that. I'm going to go to the virtual copy, develop, reset, and you can see. So what did I do? You can see that it's a little bit green in the background. That's basically because we I shoot with daylight, that's sunlight, and there's a lot of green coming through. So how do you balance that? Well, you could simply go here, click on here, tell it to go to gray. That's fine. But I don't want a color image. I want a black and white image. So I could go through my hundreds of presets and look over them in the menu, or I can just press V. Now, I don't know why, but Adobe, in their latest incarnations of Lightroom, they decided that when you press V, which means go to black and white, it adds its own, look here. It makes an auto balance, and there's no way to turn that off, so you have to have a little preset. So I put in a preset to clear all black and white functions. Now I'll go back up to the top. Then I'm going to start to play to see where the contrast becomes really lively and fun for the image. Wow, that looks pretty good. Okay, then you can play with contrast. Clarity, you can, on these type of images, you can go to quite a bit. That's looking interesting. I go directly from this panel. I don't need to change much in here on this particular image, but I need to go to black and white panel where the mixing is. And you can see red and white, I keep sliding it back and forth, it does nothing. Orange does nothing. That's because I set the temperature and tint to something very, very steep, and it only starts to be affected there. So if I double click on black and white mix, I know that the blues are going to affect it quite quickly. So I'm actually going to take that up and take that one down. Then I'll go back up to the basic panel, and then I can really start to see what it is that I want to do. Might have to look to see if lens correction, yes, it's on, because it looks like it has vignetting. It does. That's okay. Blacks. So let's see what happens with blacks. Everything's good. Shadows, whites. And then I'm going to, after I've done everything, then I go back to the temperature and tint and start modifying after I've already done, in this case. And then I think I cropped in a little bit, so it's probably from the bottom up. And that's how I do black and white. So I start at the top of the panel and go down into the tone curve if I need to eventually. Sometimes use the sliders, divide those things around, and you can see in the darks then it'll have big change. These are after the fact of the clipping points. This is what's inside of the information. Can you see how important it is to have a well-calibrated monitor? It makes all the difference. You need to have that, the graduations of the tones. You have to be able to see in the black and white areas and the highlights and the shadows. that's what's the good thing about having BenQ monitors. They're fully reliable. They do everything they need for me. They're easy to calibrate, and the price is incredible for what they are. So we're going to go back now to Slideshow, because I want to make sure that I've covered what we wanted to cover. And I definitely have. So I think we have time for one more image. So we're going to go back to Lightroom, and we're going to pick one more image. Before we go, which could be fun, I think we'll pick an ultra classic. Let's pick this one. So on the screen, you'll see this is finished. This is actually on a raw image, and this is the original. So let's try to make the image interesting. Let's go to this one. Back to this is a reset image. I can do that again. Make sure lens correction is on. And so here we're going to change some things around. Now, the other image had split tone. First thing I do, just like I do for black and white, I start to modify in regions of color temperature and then tint. In this case, it was outdoors. It wasn't through glass. It was using flash. So it was using high-powered flash. And I'm changing that slightly. Exposure, I can go up a little bit. And highlights. If you want to do something locally, we can do that later. In this case, a little bit of clarity seemed to help. Now, saturation, I think often you can actually take down vibrance a little bit, and then saturation you'll have to see how it feels after. In this case, you can go to tone curves right away, or you can go into color and start to see where you'd want to change color. Her lips will be in the reds, so I can make it a little bit brighter. That one will be a little bit brighter so her face comes off. Now, grays and blues. Is there anything? Yes, there is. So if I take that down, that's just luminance. It's not changing the actual color of it. I can try aqua, see if there's anything. No, there's not. Okay, for the rest of the image, what we're going to do is we're going to enlarge it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one of my presets. I'm going to brush in iris, dodge, and exposure. These are just presets I've made. I save them out. I basically use 3 presets over and over again. The presets often, and otherwise I just use the basic like exposure, either positive or negative. I sometimes use a lot of pins. In Capture One, it's interesting because you have it on layers. You can turn the layers on and off. Lightroom's not so far advanced. So here I added a little bit of light, but since her eyes are pretty much in deep shadow, I'm actually going to see what happens if I bring that a little bit more alive. You don't want to go too far, otherwise it'll look really fake. It looks about, to me, it looks about right. Now, go back to a fit to view or even 1-to-1. And here's how I do dodge and burn. I go from here, set it back to exposure. It's plus 0.7 at a flow of 90. I use a mouse for this often. I do have a tablet, and I use the tablet when I need drawing strokes. The tablet I use a lot more in Photoshop. And since Apple have this great little magic mouse that you can increase or decrease the brush size by a horizontal scroll, it just makes it really fast to doing this. Like I say, what I do is I follow the actual lines of light. I don't try to add light where it didn't exist. I only follow the natural lines. So here I'm modifying just a little bit, sometimes in the nose, usually the top of the lips this way. And I don't know why, but I always like to add a little bit there. Now, that side's, this shadow side's pretty dark already. I can draw in the hair a little bit, but I can actually add either just take away a little bit exposure or even a little bit more contrast on the cheeks to make them really stand out. The side, that one's pretty dark already, so if I need it, I'll volume there. Good. So since she's got a lot of highlights there, we're just about done. So what I'm going to do is go back to this view, and I'm going to turn off the brush. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to add one more brush, and we're going to use what I call a hair dodge. So I'm just making the hair come alive. All of the settings are just, they're just a preset that I made. Usually I go over the highlight areas as well, same thing as the face. Is plus exposure, minus contrast, plus clarity, etc. And you can modify it thereafter. I will also do clarity on the coats because it's going to make it a lot more sparkly. You can actually see the mask as it's being created. Turn on. I don't know if we have time to do that. And that's everything is looking good. The only thing is the other picture, we did one other thing, is we added split toning. And we added split toning into probably in the highlights a little bit. I don't want pink, but I made it a little bit warmer. So somewhere around there. But that depends on the shadows, what we do with shadows. So I'm just turning. That looks pretty good. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. But highlights now, I don't know if we need to do that or add a little bit of blue. So I'm going to go into the blues. There. But you can see that I did that to see what color I was adding, and then I'll take it back and just add in just a little bit. And I think we're just about done with this image. I might add a little bit more dodge and burn, so I'll go back to exposure, new pin, add a little bit here. Oops, that's not minus that I want, it's actually plus. Give a little bit more shape. It's where the light is naturally falling, but I just want a little bit more. And now I'm actually going to go to highlights, get a little bit of whites. And let's come back to whites only. Let's see what I can do with here, just to make this image a little bit. And then if I wanted to, they have a new thing, and just watch my time. If you hold down Shift while you drag a linear gradient, it will constrain it to parallels or constrain, period. And nowadays they have this thing that you can pick a certain range of color. So I'm going to actually use the color picker to pick up all the grays that are in here. Oops. I think I picked some of the hair when I did that, but let's see what happens. Now, we're going to not go to whites, but we're going to go to clarity. And I'm going to turn that up. Except, as I said, I didn't do a good job because I actually clicked into her hair. So I went into mask, and it's in not whites, but clarity. Almost done. Turn that one up, except we go to range masking, color, but this time I'm going to be careful not to pick up in her hair. There's the masking. We can actually turn on the mask as well. So you can see if I turn up clarity, it adds a little bit more drama. Maybe we'll make that part a little bit more blue. Not too much. Good. So there is another way of doing an image, make it a little bit stronger, a little bit more lively, entirely by using what's available on a raw image. I've always felt that the raw image gives more potential for modification because it's not yet encoded. So there are subtle differences. They're not huge, but there are subtle differences. I like the workflow that I have. I like the ability to see in the image, and also the ability to make multiple copies of the same image and see how the effect comes out differently, rather than opening an encoded image in Photoshop, and where you can use smart objects, but in the end, it's very seldom that people actually open multiple images and start to modify them to see the effects differently. Whereas on the raw images, we often do that with a virtual copy or a clone copy in Capture One. So I wanted to get back to the last important detail of today, which is your fabulous discount on BenQ SW series monitor. They truly are, and I say this with sincerity, that they are the best deal on monitors out there. They're incredibly well built, high quality. They do everything that you need them to do, and they're priced at a point that if you have to buy a monitor, I highly recommend that you look into the BenQ monitors, and with this discount, it even makes it that much better of a deal. So I would say go for it if you can. So thank you very much, and now you can put your questions at the end of this webinar.